Welcome to The Link. I'm Brandon Johnson with VoigtJohnson Real Estate. And again, this is our second episode of the podcast where we're trying to bring local leaders, business people to just get a acclamation of what makes them tick. And today I'm excited. Aaron Rieland of Bad Habit Brewing is joining us. Welcome and thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. I'm great to get a phone call from you and excited to join you on your second podcast.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time. First, if anyone's been living under a rock, tell us what Bad Habit Brewing is, just a little bit of the basics, what you do, where you're located.
Sure.
Brief synopsis.
Yeah, you bet. So we're just a craft brewery in St. Joseph, Minnesota. Been around for about 4 years now. So a little family-owned independent brewery.
Yep. And take a step back in time before you, because you haven't always been in the brewing industry, right?
Nope.
Are you originally from St. Joe or the area?
Nope. Grew up in St. Cloud.
Yep.
And then my wife and I, we've been living in Avon since 2002 now.
Okay.
So we built a house out there in 2002, and then just loved the area out there. And but no, I wasn't always a St. Joe.
But Stearns County.
Native. Oh, absolutely.
You're from the area.
From central Minnesota.
Where'd you go to high school?
Cathedral.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Graduated in 98.
Sure.
So.
And what did you do after high school? What did you do? What was your kind of...
Tried college.
Yeah.
Wasn't really my thing. So worked construction.
Here locally, or where'd you go to school?
NDSU.
Okay.
Yeah, and then St. Cloud Tech College. That's where I met my wife. So
yep.
Probably a good thing I moved back a little bit closer.
Yep.
So, I worked construction for 3 years. And then I worked for Fink and Water for 12 years after that.
Wow.
So I did sales, water treatment sales for them. So
You have like a territory, or where'd you go?
all over the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, wherever people needed good water.
Yeah.
So did that for 12 years, and then.
So the water softener, water filtration, reverse osmosis, that? Or?
Yep. Did a lot of commercial stuff for him. So Holiday gas stations, Mills Fleet Farms, Genio, turkey plant.
Commercial
craft.
stuff too.
Yeah,
then.
commercial stuff,
Yep.
a lot of that. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then what sparked, or paint the picture for me of, you're working at Finken.
Sure.
I'm sure you didn't despise it. It's just was it just a job type mentality?
Oh, yeah. No, and I honestly had planned on working there for probably ever.
Yeah.
But had homebrewed like early 2000s. And
so it was always of interest.
Yeah, I tried it early 2000s and was kind of a disaster. Beer didn't taste good.
Yeah.
And, it was a homebrew kit from Baker's Hobby and Craft.
Sure.
And tried it, lived with a bunch of buddies, made a batch of beer. It was okay, not great. Just thought it was a dumb hobby.
Yeah.
Tucked everything away, moved it several places that we lived, and then probably like 2010, 2011, I was cleaning out our attic and I found it. And I was like, I should try this again. So I went back and bought another kit at Baker's and followed the instructions this time, and turned out a little bit better than the first batch.
And this is roughly 2000.
It was like 2011, 2012.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think, I started giving it to some friends, and friends that were like, wow, this is pretty good. And just started brewing more and more.
What type
of
beer were you brewing initially, just by yourself?
I think it was just a red ale.
Yeah.
It was a kit that we got at Baker's Hobby and Craft, so it was more of a hobby just for fun.
Yeah.
And then I got a couple other friends involved in it, a cousin involved in it, and then all of a sudden there was like 8 of us brewing.
Yeah.
And it was more of just like a...
So would you have like get-togethers?
Oh, yeah, we would do like a weekend get-together.
Yep. Everyone would bring their own home brew?
Yeah, we did. The big one we did up on Lake Reno and Alec. That was probably like 2013. Went up there in January, and 8 of us made like 50 gallons of beer over the weekend.
And this is 2012, this is right when that's starting to take off, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Where there's not the local craft breweries that there are today, right?
No, correct. No,
the vibe is just, in Minnesota anyways, just starting.
Yeah, Surly was kicking in,
Yep.
and Summit had been around for years, and Shells, and those were kind of the pioneering breweries in Minnesota. And so we had brewed. I was brewing a lot at home, and actually bought a separate fridge, put it downstairs, and I had all of our beer in there, beer on tap, and was giving it
each time you're making more.
Yeah, and giving it out to as many people as I can, and bottling, and Christmas gifts, and and then I was working at a convention down in the cities, and I stopped on my way home on a Wednesday at Dangerous Man Brewing down in northeast Minneapolis with one of my partners, my good buddies, and we were there at like 4:30 on a Wednesday, and the place was just packed, and we were had a couple beers, and I'm like, this is pretty cool, and I think at that point we both were like, man, we should, after a couple beers.
Who's we when you say we?
I'm my buddy Ryan.
Okay.
Yep. And I said, we should try this. We should give this a whirl. Yeah. And we should do it in St. Cloud. And I had known at that point, I think, like Matt Studer and Nick Barth were kind of looking at doing something too. So we started putting a business plan together and started looking at locations in St. Cloud, and just nothing ever panned out. A couple things fall through, but that's kind of where it all started. 2011, 2012. Yeah. So
when did, just on a sidetrack, you brought up Matt Studer. He actually, totally sidebar, he was in real estate. He actually leased us this space.
Oh, he did? Okay.
At the same time when we signed the lease with Scott Weeder, he was in construction. I remember going and doing paperwork, meeting him, and he was, doing the woodworking of the bowling alley, the restoring that. So that was, I think, 2014 or right in there.
Yeah, it's kind of the neat thing. I think you've seen the local breweries that have opened in St. Cloud here now, like Aaron Rieland and Pantown and us. There's a lot of sweat equity into those locations. I mean, just as well as your beautiful place here too. You want to do a lot of the work on your own and put your personal touch in it. So yeah, it's funny how it's just a big circle comes around.
So partner, your co-owners with Eric, right?
Yep. So we brought him in right before we opened. Okay. We needed, and I had met Eric through, in a roundabout story, one of my kids' teachers in Avon Elementary was good friends with Eric. Sure. And we were at conferences for my daughter, and he knew we were opening the place, and he said, hey, I have a friend who's looking for a new job. Yeah. And he gave me Eric's email address and number, and I met him at Cold Spring Bakery and just hit it off. And I was like, hey, you'd be perfect for helping us out. Good people person, good manager.
Oh, yeah, fun guy. Yep. So you made the decision, okay, we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. You kind of got your ducks in order, the people in place, and you're still, how did you arrive at the original location in St. Joe, or how did you?
Yeah, so I guess like in 2014, we started looking for a location, and we were really dead set on St. Cloud, and looked at several places.
Just because it's a bigger
bigger. We wanted that downtown. I mean, I think in my head I had thought, hey, that's kind of how these breweries in the cities have worked in, higher population areas. And
so you visited a couple. You were constantly looking.
We looked at like several different places. Had somebody looking for us, and met Matt actually at a place like right before they opened Beaver Island, but just nothing ever bit. We just couldn't. Nothing ever stuck in St. Cloud. So we looked in Waite Park, and we looked actually in Sartell here, and I just nothing felt like it was the perfect spot for me. Right. And probably, I would say like late 2014, had just about given up. And I was like, this isn't going to happen.
Just because you couldn't find a location?
Just couldn't find a location, yeah. And we didn't know if we wanted something newer, wanted something older. And then I think one night I'd gotten online at home, and I was just searching commercial real estate. Yep. And Millstream Shops. Yep. The ad for that had popped up. And the next day I called John Petters, and he said, well, come. He goes, I have that spot, but he's like, I'm putting up a new building right around the corner. Come look at it with me. So I met him later that week, and we looked at the building that is now up. Right. And we're like, yeah, I'd love to go into your new building. And I was like, okay, this is it. Maybe
That was
a new building.
4 or 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, so we signed a lease with him on that, with the stipulation that if it hadn't started in by the end of 2014, we could back out. And you know, I think he just, with the weather and stuff, he wasn't able to get it going.
Yep.
And so, like January 2015, I said, hey, you know, I got to keep looking if we're going to do this.
Right.
And he said, well, let's go look at the old yoga studio. So we walked over there and walked through it. And it was smaller than I had wanted.
Yeah, how many square feet was that? Under 2,000.
Yeah, 1,800 square feet. Yeah, and that was bathrooms, production, walk-in cooler, storage, everything.
Yep.
So in hindsight, I think I was thinking it was going to be too small. But when we finally signed a lease on it and started drawing it out, it was the perfect spot for us.
It worked well for...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we signed a lease there in March of 2015, and then we took over in June of that year and started cleaning it out.
Yep.
And we completely gutted it, built it all back out, and then brewed our first batch of beer there October 2nd of 2015.
So what goes into... So you're basically brewing homebrew.
Yep.
It's still... And I by no means know anything about this, but... There's got to be a little bit of a difference going into a commercial brewing setting, what you're doing then versus brewing at home, or is it just?
Yeah, no.
I mean, is there a learning curve, or how do you make that?
Definitely.
How do you make that adjustment from, you know, weekends with the guys brewing to now we're a tap room?
Yeah.
As far as production,
it was such a whirlwind. I can't even fully remember. I mean, I think we.
Was there a lot of trial and error bad batches? Or?
No, we never really had any issues with bad batches. I'd say probably now we've perfected everything so that it's beers are just cleaner and not rushed as much. But boy, I honestly tell you, when we opened the doors there and I'd say October 2nd we brewed our first batch of beer. You know, and I think the first day we brewed, I came in at like noon on a Saturday. And we got done at like 11 p.m. And I was like, what did I just get myself into?
Because you'd move cold turkeys, I'm assuming, moved away from your job at Finken, or were you doing both?
No, I did both for about 4.5 months.
Okay.
So I was doing weekends and nights, and then Eric was doing all the other stuff during the day. So, but yeah, I think we brewed that first day, and I was like, man, this is like an 11-hour day. I'm like, what did we get ourselves into? Because I used to homebrew at home in like 6 hours. Yeah. And at first, it's really 3 or 4 weeks we made those first batches of beer. It was a lot of sweating. You know, like what if?
How many different beers originally?
Just 4.
Just 4.
Yep. We had a saison, a red ale, a milk stout, and an IPA.
Yep.
And that they were just
You want to walk before you run.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we didn't want to get too crazy with beers when we really didn't know what we were doing on that big system. And the nice thing is the system that we had purchased, it was just a larger version of our homebrew setup. So I was pretty familiar with how things should go and work. But
did you, because you guys are all the brewers in Minnesota, and so you're all, you know each other, you're all pretty close and tight, but when you're learning, I mean, did you take tours of other breweries just to get layouts, what we need just to help that learning curve, or was it all
how did some of that? I mean, I even, when we first brewed that first batch and it was done, I had never really filled a Sankey keg, so I was. But Eric had done that before when he worked at 3rd Street, or he had helped out at Milk and Honey Ciders. So having him there, I'm like, okay, yeah, show me how to fill kegs. Beer's done. How do we fill a keg? So it was good having
logistics,
him as backup to help us through some of those things. So, but yeah, I mean, we definitely had toured a bunch. I had talked to the guys at Beaver Island a couple times just during the process of the beer. And Chris was pretty helpful. With that, which is great. But it was a heck of a learning curve.
So on the other side of it, so you just have that capacity of brewing beer, but the business, I mean, and this is where I think you guys stand out, is the marketing piece, the business piece of it. That's a whole different front. how did you come up with the name Bad Habit, and talk a little bit about,
Sure.
The marketing piece of what you guys have established?
So we had, when we finally, it was probably in like fall of 2014 when we decided like we're going to fully go through this. We committed to a marketing contract with Gaslight Creative, and started talking to them about names, and we really didn't know. I mean, it was before we even had a spot picked out, but we just started talking about names, and we had talked about names that were, the 320 area code, and names with bottles in it, broken bottles, anything. We were just trying to come up with a name that would really stand out to our place. And I think we had at some point or another had sat around and we talked about just throwing out names one night, and somebody had mentioned Bad Habit, and that I think somewhere along the way it said like all the beer we were making at home was turning into kind of a bad habit.
Gotcha.
And I think once we heard that name, we were like, hey, that's it. That's a great name. Like Bad Habit Brewing. It just kind of flows nice together. And so that was it. We
and then they developed the logo.
Yeah, we went back to Gaslight, and they I had this idea in my head that I wanted an image for Bad Habit. So we tried all these different logos, and nothing just looked like great. Like they did really good work. But
they did our logo, by the way.
Oh, Gaslight. Yeah.
Kurt Kelly and
absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job, but it just wasn't like what I wanted in my head. And then I think Jody had said, well, how about instead of doing an actual logo, how about we just design your name?
Yep.
And so they like took it, and 2 days later came back, and I was like, yeah, that's it. Yep. I don't know why I wanted this. I had this thing in my head of this huge image, but it was perfect.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's been fun. I mean, we've had, then after the fact, we moved to St. Joe, or opened in St. Joe, and everybody always asks us, well, it's got to be with the St. Benedict's and the nuns. And I said, well, no, I mean, it does work that way, but we didn't.
Yep.
That's not why we picked the name.
Right.
So
what's it like? Obviously, the sweat equity, like you mentioned, getting all the work when you're first opening the doors. Is there a little nerves? Like, is anyone going to show up?
Yeah, and I think
because you're an unknown commodity at that point, right?
I know, we opened in a town I didn't really know anybody in, and we brewed those first few batches.
And downtown St. Joe is it's not what it was 4 years ago. Or 4 years ago, it wasn't what it is now, right?
No. I mean, it was good. I mean, I think John Petter's kind of changed downtown when he put up Millstream Shops and Lofts, which is awesome. But we brewed those first few batches of beer that first week in October, and then we knew we were going to open on Halloween, and it was just a month of sweating. Like what if the beer doesn't turn out? What if people don't come back? What if people come and they try it and they're like, this is terrible? So I think that was a month of a bunch of sleepless nights and long days.
Was the response overwhelming right off the bat, or did it take a little time? Was there a little bit of a trial period from the?
No, I mean the first, it was good right off the bat. I mean we got a good response from everybody and people,
because there was nothing like it in St. Cloud at the time, right?
No, Beaver Island had been open
for
I think about 9 months, 8 or 9 months. So but yeah, I mean the response was really good, and we had numbers in our heads, like, hey, if we can make this much money a week, we can keep the doors open. And it was more than that, and we're like, this is great.
Plus you're having fun, you're doing what you
love.
Oh,
right. And I mean, like any other business too, we were, we had a 3 or 4 month honeymoon period, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit. And but our commitment when we originally talked about opening Bad Habit was, some of the things we wanted in the business was a family atmosphere. We would be working it. Always experimenting with new beers and trying different things. So I've been pretty blessed that obviously the community of St. Joe and even surrounding communities has been phenomenal. I mean, we just the support of people that come back and support us and talk about us. And
I think, something that resonates with me that I have kind of learned is the successful businesses thrives or is built on the foundation of a loyal customer base.
Right.
And I think you've tapped into that as far as building a brand and your loyal following. I mean, you can't replicate that, what that does for your business, right? The word of mouth and the relationships.
Yep.
And I think that's just a key to what you guys, I mean, marketing goes into it, but you and Eric are very visible, very in the community, with relationships and giving back and being involved. And I think that just kind of snowballs.
Yep.
As far as people wanting to be, it means something when you hear Bad Habit Brewing.
Yeah. Well, and then I appreciate that. And it's always wonderful to hear, I mean, obviously we're a business, in a business to support families, the families of the employees that work for us. But on the same hand, I mean, that's been one of our goals since the very beginning is to give back, and be able to have a successful business that can give back and be able to do things in the community. And it honestly all stems with, I mean, I'm just so fortunate to have the staff that we have, and just when I think like our staff is great, then we add another person that's like, geez, it's
culture.
Where did you come from?
It's culture.
Yeah. And we Eric and I started working, we were doing the brewing and working the tap room, and our, spouses were working with us and friends were working for free just because we didn't have any money, and I mean, say I'm lucky enough to have friends and family that are willing to do that too, so, but we had that, we did that for a year, and all of a sudden, we got into it, and I'm like, hey, we're there's too much work here for the both of us, we got to hire a brewer. So, so I'd met Eric Salmi, his significant other runs a women in beer.
Is that Sally?
Yep. Sally.
Yep.
So she runs a women in beer group, and my wife had gone. So my wife kind of got to know Sally, and then I got to know Eric through that. And we just hit it off. And, he was driving to town hall, commuting every day from St. Augusta down to Northeast Minneapolis. So I had talked to him like, hey, would you be interested in coming and working for us?
Yeah.
So we talked to him like December of 2017 now. No, 16. Yeah, geez.
Okay, so now he's the head brewer.
Yeah, so he came over and he kind of just took over all the brewing, and it's been great. We had pretty good lineup of solid beer recipes, but he's brought a lot of new knowledge and beer and to our place. So we added him, and it was great. And then our marketing guy Morgan Philippi,
who's excellent, by the way.
Oh gosh,
he's the different. I mean, he's.
Oh yeah, he elevated us to the next level with our
100%. Yeah,
and we didn't we didn't really name our beers. We didn't really care about the graphic stuff, and we were just grabbing stuff off the internet when we were posting stuff on Facebook. And that it was an interesting thing because I got to know Mo in 2014 when he worked for Gaslight.
Sure.
And we just stayed friends. And he had called me in like 2017, and he's like, hey, I think I'm kind of want to get out of the marketing thing for a while and take a break. And I said, well, hey, do you want to come on a whim? I said, you want to come do our stuff for us?
And does he bartend? I mean, he does all that.
Oh yeah, he works in the tap room. And so he came over to us, and man, like he just,
it's a whole nother level, right?
Labels. Yeah. So it was one of those other things too, like where I was like, man, it doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah.
And then he came along and it's just been great. And it seems, like I said, every time I think we can't get any better.
So, sorry to interrupt you, but
no problem.
So to go back now, so you're there about 2 years, and you're just like, we're outgrowing this, right?
Yeah, I think so. Again,
or was it the City Hall became an opportunity, or a little bit of both? Just walk me through that picture of transition of how that decision was made. And
yeah, we had looked at the City Hall probably in like 2017. Not physically went over there and looked at it, but driven by it and saw it was up for sale. I was like, oh man, that'd be an awesome place someday. No way I'd ever be able to afford it.
Right.
And then I think like end of 2017, the last 3 months of the year were pretty busy, and I was like, oh man, we're kind of running out of beer, and it's like good.
Because I'll be honest, there'd be a couple times, I'd be out with my wife or drive by and it's packed, so we don't stop.
Yep.
And I think, and I don't know if you've heard that before.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yep. And so we, 2017, we knew we were getting low on beer, but I was like, okay, January and February and usually March are pretty quiet. We'll rebound.
Yep.
And then we kind of hit January of 2018 and it didn't stop. And then February didn't stop. And so I kind of collectively had talked to our partnership group and I was like, I think we need to look at, doing something different. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like a temporary Band-Aid, we can put 3 more fermenters in. So we had ordered fermenters in like March.
And did you go back to Petters at all and say, hey, are you still thinking of building, or was it always the City Hall location?
Yeah, so no, we talked to John, and John is like, I could add on to the corner of the building if you need a bigger facility. And so we had talked to him about that. And then he had said he was looking at the old City Hall too. He talked about buying that. And
yeah. So the location's great.
Yeah, and he was going to put offices in there. So then we approached the city and in like March of 2018, and I talked to Judy there. I was like, well, what do you want to do with this place? Do you want to rent it? Do you want to sell it? And she said, no, we're interested in selling it. So we got together as a group and came up with an offer and threw it at them and negotiated a little bit.
I suppose it's got to go through the whole city council process.
Yeah.
And all that.
And I mean it just is what it is.
Yep.
And so we kind of agreed on a price in like June of 2018, and then we purchased it, that building in September of 2018, and then started deconstructing it in October. So, and we hired rice companies to do it for us, and it was a wonderful decision.
Yeah, I mean, it turned out. I mean, I'm assuming it's kind of what you envisioned, but
it
turned out.
It's funny because I think with that June of last year when we had finally decided to pull the trigger on it, I had an image in my head of how I kind of like colors and how I kind of wanted it to look.
Yep.
So I had drawn it out on paper, and then Mo took it and did it on Photoshop, and I was like, dang, this looks cool. Well, then we sent that to Rice, and I mean, Rice's architect Don kind of ran with it, and it was great having them involved, though, just with even for picking out.
And I suppose having gone through a little bit of that building process at the original site, you kind of learned, okay, we would have done this differently. You kind of learned some of that, so when you're doing it for real now, rather than if you would have done it initially,
right? And like layout of the tap room, and layout of the brew house, and a bigger walk-in cooler, and I mean, those are all things that we'd kind of had on a list. Because I think when we finally decided to pull the trigger on a different location, we had all sat around and had a wish list of things that we wanted differently at the new place. So bigger patio was obviously one of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just
you did it right. I mean, for those of you that haven't been to the new location, great patio. I mean, you guys have the bags, the yard games, everything, the inside facility. You've got a meeting room or a conference room for parties, birthday parties. I'm assuming you get a little bit of office parties,
graduation
that sort of
stuff, all that.
Yep. It's really cool because downtown St. Joe is just thriving, and you guys are at the center of that. And I think everyone's kind of, Ann from the law works here too, and I think it's cool to see, as a lot of downtowns are struggling, to see downtown St. Joe thriving, and I think you're at the forefront of it, quite responsible for that.
St. Joe, I mean, if you look at surrounding areas, I mean, they actually have a legitimate downtown, and it is surviving, but it stems from anchors like the meat market and the local blend and Bella Cucina and the La Playette, like those, the Midi and Sliced and Gary's. I mean, those are,
and then you all help each other. I mean, you get people down there, you all, but it benefits everybody, right?
Yeah, and it's nice. I mean, we have a pretty good relationship with Ann and Sean. Where we just got together here a few weeks ago and kind of talked about events for next year, so we don't plan big events over each other, so that we're not stepping on toes. And it's not a, there's not a lot, I don't know a lot of places that do that, you know, where it's obviously it's a competition, but can still have a civil conversation and talk about our businesses.
Yeah, I think I think as a consumer saying, okay, where are we going to go tonight? Or it's just a lot of times, okay, let's go to downtown St. Joe. You don't know, hey, I'm going to go to the law. Hey, I'm going to go to Bad Habit. And it's just, let's go there. And then you figure it out when you get there. So the more that you attract people collectively, I think it just my opinion.
We get customers that bounce back and forth between us and the law. And we're really excited to see Crew open. You know, I just excited to see another awesome restaurant open. And that's something else to bring more people.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny, ironic you bring that up because I was just by chance heard this weekend. O'Gara's in St. Paul.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar.
Yep. I mean, by Excel there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I lived in St. Paul for a couple years, 20 years ago, and that was kind of a big gathering place, beer, restaurant. And they knocked it down, built kind of like what Petters is doing with the, apartments up top. Mm-hmm. And they were going to put their restaurant brewery back underneath.
Yep.
And they just announced this weekend that they are no longer planning on doing that.
Yep.
And they cited two reasons: the rise of the phenomenon of the tap rooms for competition and increased building regulations.
Right.
They're keeping the state fair, of course.
Yep. Right.
But I just thought, this whole phenomenon, because you knew it had to impact anytime there's innovation, right? It takes away from others. But the innovation or the phenomenon of the tap room is really, I always said it's going to affect the local mom and pop bars, but I think they're at the other end of the spectrum. I think it might be affecting some of like the O'Gares, but I just thought it was an interesting decision, and it's obviously the more and more breweries, because they're opening up all over the state even more now. It's really kind of taken over. Yeah,
I think if you look at statistics the last 2 years, it's definitely started to plateau a little bit.
Yep.
There still are breweries opening, but not like they were 2 years ago. People are. It's just they're kind of falling into place now. In certain areas.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. You never like seeing a place close like that.
Yeah.
It affects staff and people who count that as income and stuff like that. But I definitely think time's changing a little bit.
Well, for me, we have a cabin in the Annandale area.
Okay.
So Spilled Grain.
Yep.
It's just a different dynamic. Like I have two small girls, they're not small anymore, 12 and 9, right?
Yep.
But when there's a rainy day or something, we would never take them to the local bar.
Right.
But with some friends and other families, we go to Spilled Grain. Kids run around, do their thing, play Hammerschlagen, do whatever, and we sit out. It's just a different vibe than the traditional bar. It's more family friendly. And
and I definitely think that's something that breweries have done to change kind of the dynamic of not going to a bar to get hammered. Let's go have a couple beers, visit with friends, play some games, and then we go home. So definitely, a place where you can bring kids if you want to.
I think you guys have done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
As far as I always go back to the branding because that's kind of mine. I get excited about that sort of stuff. But the experience to me is second to none that I've gone through, and it's just a credit to what you guys, like I said, St. Joe has really revitalized downtown, and you guys are a big reason for that. So it's something I think you should be proud of. So
it's been fun. We're kind of through the next phase now. So now we're like, okay, what's next? What are we?
So what is next? Anything?
I don't know. To be honest with you. I don't know.
You want to break anything here? Or?
No, I don't. We haven't really talked about it. We're trying to get through our first year at the new place.
Yep. Is the building completely done?
No, it's not. It's got a full basement in it too. So we have about 4,000 square feet on the main floor, and then there's 4,000 square feet on the basement. We had to do a little tearing up in the basement. For structural stuff. So it's tore apart right now, but I don't know. We're kind of storing stuff down there right now. It might be a event room someday. I don't know.
But you got options.
Yeah, definitely have options. So we But yeah, I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Just ride it out and see what happens.
Well, you're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in, sharing a little bit about your story. And I look forward to stopping in and having you fill up another growler for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Brandon.
Thanks
for having us.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. It means a lot to us. If you really liked hearing the link, please subscribe below, and I look forward to you joining us next time.